The chamber was dead silent. Rows of homeowners sat shoulder to shoulder, their eyes locked on the front where the city council panel leaned forward, confused and tense. The atmosphere smelled of cheap coffee, old carpet, and the sweat of arguments that had dragged on for hours. Cameras from local news stations pointed their cold glass eyes at the witness stand, and there she was, a mid-aged white woman in a sharp blue blazer, hair perfectly ironed, lips pursed with practiced arrogance. She clutched her binder like it was a holy book. This was Karen, the HOA enforcer who had terrorized families for years. Across from her sat a family, parents holding each other's hands so tightly, their knuckles turned white. Their son, barely 10, sat stiff in his chair, sneakers dangling, face pale but eyes burning with something stronger than fear, defiance. The council chair cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he said, voice echoing through the mic, "you claim this family violated community rules by installing a basketball hoop." Karen smirked, sliding a photo across the desk. "Yes, and I have evidence that their so-called recreational activity is destroying property values, disturbing peace, and violating Clause 7B of the HOA Charter." Murmurs rippled through the room. A basketball hoop. Property values. The boy shifted in his chair. Then the father stood up, shaking but firm. He placed his own stack of papers on the table, receipts, petitions, neighborhood signatures. With a voice that carried pain, anger, and truth, he said, "No, what's destroying this community is her." Gasps, whispers, cameras zoomed in. The storm had begun. But to understand how it all came to this, you have to go back to where it started. An ordinary summer afternoon. The sun blazed over the cul-de-sac, painting driveways in golden light. Kids laughed as a rubber ball thudded against asphalt, bouncing high before swishing through a brand new hoop bolted firmly above a family's garage. The net snapped crisply with every shot, the kind of sound that made summer feel alive. The father, sweating, smiling, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand, watched his son dribble. Again, he coached. The boy bent, focused, released. Wish. The father clapped, pride swelling. Neighbors peeked out from their porches. Some waved, some smiled, a few even joined in. It wasn't just a game. It was a small heartbeat of community. A hoop where kids could gather, where laughter could replace silence, where bonds could grow stronger. For the family, it was more than metal and netting. It was hope. A distraction from rising bills, from long shifts, from the weight of life pressing down. That hoop gave their child confidence, gave them all something to hold onto. But not everyone saw it that way. Behind lace curtains across the street, a figure lurked, binoculars pressed to her face, pen scratching furiously into a notebook, eyes narrowing at every bounce of the ball. Karen, to her, the sound wasn't joy, it was chaos. The sight wasn't community, it was disorder, and in her world, order was everything. The first letter came folded neatly in an HOA envelope, slipped under the family's dorm, at like a poisoned gift. Notice of violation. Basketball hoop installation unapproved. Remove immediately or face daily fines of $200. The father read it aloud, his jaw tightening. The mother grabbed the paper, scanning the words as her eyes filled with disbelief. The boy just stared at the hoop outside, suddenly unsure if his joy was about to be dismantled. But the family wasn't the type to bow easily. They checked the rules. Nowhere did it forbid a hoop. They looked at other homes, satellite dishes, lawn gnomes, swing sets. Rules bent all the time. Why was their hoop the problem? Then came the second letter, harsher, threatening liens, court action, property seizure. The words dripped with venom, then the phone calls, late, night knocks. Karen herself showing up, clipboard in hand, finger jabbing toward the hoop. "This is against the rules. Take it down or pay the price." The family tried reasoning. It's for the kids. It keeps them safe, here at home. Isn't that what a neighborhood is for? But Karen wasn't listening. Her smile was thin, her tone sharp. "I don't make the rules," she said, even though she twisted them daily. "I enforce them." From that moment, the game wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about survival. The letters weren't enough. The threats weren't enough, so Karen sharpened her next weapon, fear. She began knocking on doors, one by one, clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield, pen tapping impatiently as she spoke in hushed, poisoned tones. You know that basketball hoop across the street? It's lowering your property value. Do you really want buyers thinking this neighborhood looks ghetto? The word dripped like acid. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, some nodding just to avoid her glare. Others frowned but said nothing. Karen knew silence was as good as compliance. Soon whispers spread. At block meetings, she paraded statistics she'd cherry, picked off the internet, claiming hoops caused vandalism, gangs, crime. She wasn't just attacking a family, she was crafting a narrative, one where she was the savior and they were the threat. The family felt it, the stares when they walked to the mailbox, the cold greetings at the grocery store. Even kids who once played on their driveway were pulled away by parents too scared to pick a side. At night, the father stood at the window, staring at the hoop bathed in moonlight. It looked smaller now, lonelier, but in his chest, fire burned hotter. They won't take this from us, he whispered, but Karen wasn't done, not even close. Weeks passed. The mailbox became a graveyard of threats. Every morning, another envelope, each one colder, more merciless. Fine balance due, $4 200, notice of intent to place lien on property. Failure to comply will result in legal action. The father slammed his fist on the table. They're trying to bankrupt us. Karen had manipulated the HOA board, filling it with her loyalists, people too weak or too scared to oppose her. With each vote, each signature, the fines stacked higher. It was no longer about the hoop, it was about control, about power, and then came the intimidation. Anonymous notes slid under their door. Take it down before something happens. Tires slashed in the driveway. Once, the boys' basketball vanished, only to reappear deflated on the porch with a crude smiley face drawn in marker. The family called the police. Reports were filed, but every time Karen was there, calm, smiling, pretending to be helpful. Such a shame they're having so much trouble, she told officers sweetly, as if she were the victim. The mother cried quietly at night. The father sat awake, head in his hands. The boy asked, "Did I do something wrong?" And that was the cruelest cut of all. The showdown began at a crowded HOA meeting in the community hall, folding chairs packed with neighbors, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Karen stood at the podium, her binder stacked with papers, voice sharp as she listed infractions. Not only is this hoop a violation, she declared, but this family has endangered the harmony of our neighborhood. They owe thousands in unpaid fines. If they refuse to comply, the HOA will move to foreclose on their home. Gasps rippled. The family sat in the back, fists clenched. The boy squeezed his mother's hand so tightly she winced. The father couldn't take it anymore. He rose, voice shaking but loud. Do you hear yourselves? This is over a basketball hoop. Our son's joy, our family's peace. You're trying to throw us out of our own home. Because of her. Every head turned. Cameras were rolling. Reporters scribbled. For the first time, the cracks in Karen's armor began to show, but she smirked, unshaken. This is not personal, she said smoothly. This is about rules, and rules must be followed. The father looked around, eyes burning with desperation. Then maybe the rules are wrong. Silence. A heavy, dangerous silence. Because in that moment, everyone realized this wasn't just about one hoop. It was about power versus people. The HOA meeting ended in chaos. Neighbors whispered, some angry, some ashamed, others secretly cheering. But Karen wasn't finished. The next morning, as dawn bled across the sky, she marched to the family's driveway armed with a toolbox. No clipboard, no sunglasses, just pure rage. Clang, clang. The sound of metal against metal jolted the boy awake. He peeked through the curtains and froze. Karen was attacking the hoop. Wrench in hand, she yanked at bolts, yanked at the rim, muttering under her breath like a woman possessed. This ends today. This ends now. The father stormed outside. Get off my property. But she didn't stop. Neighbors gathered, phones out, recording. The boy cried from the porch as sparks flew. Finally, with a sickening crack, the backboard split. the rim crashing to the ground. The crowd gasped. The boy's sobs pierced the air. The father's face twisted between fury and heartbreak. And for the first time, Karen realized she wasn't the enforcer anymore. She was the criminal. The council chamber was packed, every seat buzzing with tension. Neighbors leaned forward, phones in hand, ready to witness the final blow. This wasn't just about a hoop anymore, it was about dignity, belonging, and justice. Karen stepped up first. Her voice rang sharp, her clipboard clutched. Like a badge of authority, this hoop is a violation. It lowers property values. It disturbs the peace. It must be removed. Her words dripped with confidence, like she'd already won. But then the father took the stand. He didn't need to shout. His voice carried steady fire. This hoop keeps my kids safe. It teaches them discipline, joy, teamwork. It isn't lowering this neighborhood. It's lifting it. And then came the evidence, letters Karen had written, photos of children she had stalked, recordings of her late-night threats, and the line that broke the chamber open. These people don't belong here. They're ruining the neighborhood. Gasps, shock, the mask ripped away. The room turned. Council members leaned forward, eyes narrowed, no longer neutral. Finally, the chair spoke, voice heavy with authority. There is no violation. The hoop stays. And as for you, ma'am, harassment ends here. Applause thundered through the chamber. Neighbors rose, clapping, cheering, embracing the family. Karen slumped back in her chair, her clipboard dangling uselessly at her side, her power gone, her control shattered. And outside that night, under the streetlights, the kids bounced their ball again. The echo wasn't just the sound of a game, it was the sound of victory. The video spread like wildfire. First the neighborhood chat groups, then city forums, then national headlines. HOA president arrested for destroying family's basketball hoop. Neighborhood kids defend their friend after Karen meltdown, when HOA power turns into abuse. Within days, the HOA board collapsed. Members resigned, some apologizing publicly for ever siding with Karen. New elections were called, and the family, they weren't isolated anymore. Neighbors showed up every evening, not just to offer support, but to rebuild. Together they poured concrete, raised a new pole, bolted a new backboard, stronger, brighter, unshakable. When the boy shot his first basket on the new hoop, cheers erupted. Children swarmed the driveway, laughing, playing, reclaiming joy Karen had tried to steal. It wasn't just a hoop anymore, it was a symbol. In the end, it was never about the metal or the net. It was about what it represented: childhood, family, community. A single hoop became the battleground for dignity. Karen thought she could control it with rules. She thought power meant fear, but power, real power, lives in unity. She left in handcuffs. The family stood taller, and the neighborhood learned a lesson carved in steel and concrete. You can bend rules, you can twist words, but you cannot break joy, because joy rebuilds, joy rebounds, and sometimes, joy dunks harder than any enemy ever could. Fade out. Crowd laughter and cheers echo as the boy's final shot swishes perfectly through the net, sunlight blazing behind him.